My Twitter is on fire lately, mainly because I was the guy that ditched the iPhone 5S for an HTC One M8. So, now that I've shifted gears back to the iPhone 6, everybody wants to know why. I'm Jaime Rivera, this is Pocket Now, and this is iPhone 6 versus the HTC One M8. Every single Android lover thinks I'm crazy for returning to the iPhone 6 after using the award-winning HTC One M8. I mean, hey, this is just the bigger iPhone, right? Well, that's actually not so accurate. A hardware comparison between these two is a good example of why I should be crazy. Both devices are made of aluminum, but I'm sure we can all agree that the HTC One M8 is the better-looking device here. From the brushed metal finish on its curved back to the futuristic look of the boom sound speakers up front, to the fact that HTC did a much better job at making these antenna cuts look good. Snap these two side by side and the One M8 would easily win this one, if looks were everything. Sadly, looks aren't everything, and one of my biggest reasons for returning to the iPhone 6 were really ergonomics. I do have bigger than average hands, but I find the iPhone 6 to be much more pleasant to use than the One M8. Both devices have similarly sized displays, but the iPhone 6 is 30 grams lighter, half an inch shorter, 3mm narrower, and a crazy 2.5mm thinner. You could then argue that the One M8 has more pixels on the display, but seriously, the difference is really hard to perceive. When it comes to comfort, size does matter, and even though none of these devices have thin bezels, the fact that there is a full inch of separation between the bottom of the One M8 and the user interface can be uncomfortable from time to time. The boom sound speakers surely make this experience worth it, but you spend more time typing on a phone than listening to the speakers, and in that sense, the iPhone single speaker is actually second on my list when it comes to sound quality and loudness. The software experience did make my choice difficult. HTC Sense 6 is still one of my favorite user interfaces ever, and I'm not just comparing it to other Android skins. From the unlocking gestures to the aesthetics of Sense 6, it's really hard to find anything to not like here. One of my favorite features is the different filters you find when navigating on HTC applications, something which should clearly be part of iOS 8 and is not. Now don't get me wrong, iOS 8 is so far my favorite version of iOS ever, and I do agree with Michael's statement that this OS was definitely made with bigger screens in mind. Apple's new zoomed out mode makes full use of the new screen real estate, and the iPhone 6 handles everything without a stutter. The inclusion of third-party keyboards, new health services, and widgets on the notification tray are really just cherry toppers. iOS 8 has matured, and it is clear with this update on the iPhone 6. Again, it's hard to declare a winner when it comes to software. If you're an Android fan, HTC Sense 6 is by far my favorite user interface. And if you're an iPhone fan, well, it's not like you have much of a choice either. Now, things got tricky for the HTC One M8 when it comes to my overall user experience. Again, the iPhone 6 is much more comfortable to use, but then the second reason that made me switch is, repeat after me, the camera. Speed used to be my favorite feature when it came to the HTC One M8 since it's faster than fast on taking a shot, but Apple's new Focus Pixel technology does the same thing. Once you compare the resulting shots, you'll notice that both cameras take amazing photos in daylight, even though HDR mode is more vibrant on the One M8. The same can be said about night shots, where both devices do a decent job without optical limit stabilization, but where the One M8 has an extra kick when it comes to HDR. I'm not a fan of how HTC overexposes photos at times, but I do know people that actually like that. My biggest problems remain in the megapixel count, where you sometimes find yourself too far from a subject and want to zoom into it. And in that department, only the iPhone 6 will help you. Surely the One M8 takes better selfies, but I wish I could say the same about the primary camera. When it comes to real-world use, I'm not going to bore you with specifications. Both devices sport the cream of the crop when it comes to specs and internals, and you can see this in the way they handle games and your average use. I have no complaints on either department, and I am sure you won't too. Where I do notice a difference is in signal strength, something which matters a lot to me. You may mock the iPhone's antenna design, but I find the device to hold on to Wi-Fi on a faraway router a lot better than the One M8, and I also find it more reliable in retaining data connection on sectors with bad service. When it came to phone calls, I found the experience to be pleasant on both phones, and callers really did feel the same and couldn't tell the difference, even with the boom sound speakers. I also found battery life to be similar on both devices. The One M8's battery is significantly larger at 2600 mAh, but I found myself ending the day the same with both phones, though I did find that the battery would drop a lot faster on the One M8, and that could be because this phone is 6 months older. I wish I could end this note by telling you that I miss the HTC extras like the IR blaster on the One M8, but I found myself using it less and less since searching for buttons on a glass display is awkward since you can't really feel them, and the same can be said about the dual camera effects, which were cool, but which I rarely use, to be honest with you. All these are great features, some people like them, but in my particular case I really didn't find any value to my day-to-day use. Overall, the conclusions lie in your particular needs. Smartphones were made with different users in mind, and as much as I love the HTC One M8, the improved ergonomics of the iPhone 6 in addition to the better camera and the continuity features of iOS 8 when matched with the iPad and OS X Yosemite have pulled me back to the dark side. Your mileage may vary, but regardless of what phone you pick, you will be well served either way. The One M8 is probably the best Android phone that I've ever used, and the iPhone 6 is the best iPhone I've ever used. Your device could be the One M8, my device ended up being the iPhone 6. I do feel that HTC does add some extra value when it comes to the One M8 if you compare it to the iPhone 6, but then again that extra value could be more relevant to others than it is to me. That's it for our comparison of the HTC One M8 versus the iPhone 6. Thank you very much for watching. Make sure you leave us a comment down below and share your experiences. You can also follow us on social media and subscribe to our YouTube channel as well. You can follow me on Twitter, Jaime_Rivera. Please give this video a thumbs up if you like what you saw. I am Jaime Rivera. Thank you very much for watching, and we will see you on more comparisons to come.